everybody, welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I am your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
Woo! This is a new era, 101. Who knows what can happen next, right?
Yeah, we're breaking new ground tonight, Michael.
That's right.
For the first time in Flea Market Fantasy history, we will be reviewing not one, but two comic books.
I hope you know what kind of precedent this sets, Michael.
Well, here's the thing, Michael. Last week when we wrapped up the show, I said we were going to do Giant-Sized Avengers issue 2 from 1974.
Right.
Because it has Kang the Conqueror. And spoiler alert, Kang shows up in the Loki TV show.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to be talking about the Kang. And I was excited. The reason I picked it was because you always pick these enormous DC books.
Yeah,
with like
100 pages.
30 stories, yeah.
Right.
Like that Flash Spectacular was 100 pages, and then like there's a couple other ones that were nonsense. So I'm like, I want to get back at Mike L. I want to pick Giant-Sized Avengers 2 because it's 68 pages. So, help balance the scales out a bit. But then when I sat down to read the book, I found out that the Avengers story is only about, 30-some pages. And then they reprinted Fantastic Four, which technically was the first appearance of Kang, but we'll get into that in a bit later. But I don't want to review Fantastic Four, so I called it
fun. Anyway,
I talked to you on the internet's machines, and I said, "Hey, Michael, let's do Avengers 129 because that is the first part of this story."
Right.
So we'll get the entire story here.
Okay, but I'm just saying, don't be surprised if we got a Wolfpack two-parter coming up soon in a future episode, okay?
I would love to read more about whales.
All right, yeah, there's more to come then. You'll see.
So Avengers 129, and then the story is continued in Giant-Sized Avengers 2. So that's what we'll be doing here today. Oh, both from 1974.
Right.
And Steve Englehart is the writer for both books, but Sal Buscema drew the first one, Avengers 129, and then Giant-Sized Avengers 2 is drawn by Dave Cockrum.
Right.
Dave Cockrum.
Right.
We've talked about all these people before, so we don't have to talk about them again. But,
okay, but I mean, for new listeners, we'll just say Dave Cockrum is most famous for co-creating the new X-Men and
yes,
drawing it up until about 108 or 105 or something, and then he left for John Byrne to start his run. Then Dave Cockrum came back after Byrne left and had another run for like a couple years. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Good old Dave Cockrum. And then of course we talk about Sal Buscema on here like every week, so everyone knows Sal Buscema. And Englehart we've talked about enough, so screw it. All right.
What about Joe Staton? Joe Staton, the inker. We gonna talk about him?
We have talked about him, Michael, because if you recall, he drew the Green Lantern with pie face.
Right.
The infamous Green Lantern with pie face. So,
forgot about that.
All right, so the reason I picked these issues is because they feature Kang the Conqueror. So let's talk about Kang, Michael.
Okay.
Do you know his real name?
Actually, no, I do not.
Really? You're Mr. Comic Books. How do you not know this?
I don't know. I never read that many Avengers, I guess.
Well, he's Nathaniel Richards. He's Reed Richards' long descendant.
Hold the phone. Is this a retcon or is this the original story?
I think it was all I don't know when they revealed this, but I should have looked into that. But if it was changed, it was changed a long time ago, not like within the last 5 years or anything.
Okay.
So yeah, he was born in the 31st century. And he's a descendant of Reed Richards. And he is created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. In his first appearance, he was actually known as Rama Tut. Right. He was like an Egyptian pharaoh. And that was in Fantastic Four issue 19, 1963. And that's what was reprinted in the back of Giant-Sized Avengers 2.
Right.
But his first appearance as Kang was in Avengers issue 8, 1964. So a year later, he showed up as Kang.
Very cool.
So basically, yeah, Kang was born in the 31st century where they had all kinds of crazy technologies, so he could time travel. And he doesn't have any mutant powers or superpowers. He just has advanced technology.
Very cool.
Yeah. And would you like to describe his costume for the kids? Because I think he has one of the cooler costumes.
Oh, very cool. So the main colors here, the color motif is purple and green, just like a lot of supervillains, right? So first, I'll start at the bottom. He has got the funkiest boots I have ever seen.
They're like thigh-high go-go boots.
Right. They go from the foot all the way up to just below his, gonads. And they're striped as well, so that's even cooler, right?
Yeah, and they're purple with vertical stripes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then underneath that, he has like a bag. Well, I guess his pants are a little bit tight, but he has like a baggy pants underneath that, and like, green baggy shirt outfit underneath that with very baggy sleeves, green.
Yeah.
Then he has a purple belt. Then he has purple gloves, and he has like a kind of like a purple. I don't know what you call that. Like a, I don't know what, like a thing that hangs around his neck, kind of like goes around his neck. But the key thing about Kang that makes him so cool that they didn't include in the Loki TV show is his freaking mask, because he has a purple kind of like helmet with these three things, like little like rectangles on the top and one on each side, but then his face is blue and he has these two white lines going across, like kind of like dividing his face into three. It's really cool. Very cool design. And the lines, I guess, they also kind of go around his mouth and his eyes too, but anyway.
Yeah, at least weren't they, I don't always remember them being white. They are drawn white here in this cover. But I seem to recall them being purple a lot of the times.
And it's different on the inside, so I'm not sure what the actual, version's supposed to look like.
But yeah, Kang the Conqueror. His shirt, his baggy little shirt there, it's very like a lady's blouse, very firestormy.
Right, right.
But Miguel, this is how people will dress in the 31st century.
I hope so.
So that's what that's about. So yeah, we'll talk. Any memories of Kang? You said you don't really read a lot of Kang.
Well, I love Avengers, but I just didn't read much of it as a kid, so I only would have read a few appearances in like Roger Stern's Avengers run. But I mean, as a kid, I definitely read the Marvel Universe entries, right? And I remember first realizing that Ramatut and Kang and Scarlet Centurion were all the same guy, just at different time periods.
That's right.
Oh, that my 12-year-old mind was blown, like just such a cool concept, like to plan that all, right?
His other famous one is Immortus, right?
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them. Yeah, I forgot.
That's like an older version of Kang, Immortus.
Right.
So some other characters we'll be seeing here in this story. The Swordsman. Now, if you know his real name, I'll be very impressed.
Oh, the Swordsman. Is it?
Yeah, you don't know it. No one knows.
Is it Dean something?
Jacques Duquesne.
No. Okay.
I think you're thinking of the Black Knight.
Oh, there you go.
I think his name is Dean Whitman, or is that what it is? Or
Dane Whitman. Yep.
Dane Whitman. Yeah. All right, but the Swordsman, Jacques Duquesne, first appearance Avengers 1965, created by Stanley and Don Heck.
Right.
What can you tell us about the Don Heck, Michael? Anything?
What's that?
Do you know anything about Don Heck?
I know he's a great artist that a lot of people don't really like, but he was kind of a romance artist in the 50s. Then he got, then he moved over to superheroes, and I personally think his stuff is great. Like his run on Avengers is great. His run on Wonder Woman is awesome. So yeah,
he had a pretty good run on Avengers from what I remember. Like,
I don't know how many issues, like 40 or 50 or something for sure.
Yeah, something like that. So the Swordsman, he started out as a villain, and then he became a good guy in Avengers 100, and he officially joined the team in 112, which was in 1973. And his deal was he's a swordsman. That's basically, he has a sword, but his sword can like shoot energy beams out of it, right? Like,
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
laser beams. He also has a purple costume,
right,
with a fin on his head. Yeah.
I always thought he looked cool. Yeah.
And I guess his backstory is that he was a criminal, but he worked at a carnival, right, with Trick Shot, and a young Clint Barton showed up, a runaway Clint Barton, and he was working there, and Clint Barton caught swordsman stealing from the carnival, and Swordsman was going to kill Clint Barton, but then Trickshot, that was his name, right? Trickshot? He saved him, and then Swordsman ran off to go do more criminal stuff, and Trickshot took Clint Barton under his wing, and he became Hawkeye. He taught him how to shoot the arrows.
I learned that this issue, that he actually taught Hawkeye how to shoot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, in this issue, they screwed up, though. They say that the swordsman taught Hawkeye to shoot her. Technically, Trickshot was the guy that taught him to shoot the arrows.
Gotcha, okay.
But, I mean, I'm sure maybe he helped at first. But when he became Hawkeye, it was Trickshot.
Gotcha.
From what I understand. But anyway, so that's the swordsman. And he's a pivotal figure here. Do you remember, you said you didn't read a lot of Avengers. So did you ever encounter the swordsman in your comic book travels?
I mean, only maybe in more recent years reading some reprints, but not really as a kid. No, I just again, I definitely in the Marvel Universe entry, but I don't remember reading any stories with him. No.
I guess the gimmick here was after the first team of Avengers stepped away, it was just Captain America, and then he brought in all new Avengers: Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Hawkeye, and Swordsman, and they all used to be villains.
Cap's Kooky Quartet, yes.
That's right.
Right.
So, no, I know we've talked about this character before. I swear to God we have, but I can't remember why or what issue we would have. But we also encounter Mantis in this book. Now, can you remember why we have talked about Mantis? Because when I read her backstory, I'm like, oh, I know we talked about this.
Well, Mantis mainly appeared in like Silver Surfer in the 80s.
Yeah, later on,
Avengers.
Silver Surfer.
Well, Steve Englehart created her, so it would have been anything Steve Englehart was writing, like maybe Defenders. Was that it?
I don't think she ever showed up in Defenders though. But anyway, so Mantis, her first appearance was Avengers 112, 1973, created by Steve Englehart and Don Heck.
Nice.
And she's half Vietnamese and half German, and she's the daughter of Libra from the Zodiac.
Ah, very cool.
The evil Zodiac guys. But when Libra left, he went off to do his criminal stuff. He left her in Vietnam at the Temple of the Alien Priests of Pama, a sect of the Kree.
Really?
And they believed she could be the celestial Madonna and mate with the eldest Kotati on Earth to become the mother of the celestial Messiah, Sequoia, who would be the most important being in the universe. So let's back up a little bit. The Kotati, do you know who the Kotati are, Michael?
I can't remember. Nope.
They're an alien race of like plant people.
Okay.
And did you ever hear of Sequoia, the celestial Messiah?
This might have been in the 80s Silver Surfer run, but I don't remember.
I think it was mentioned there, yeah.
Okay.
Because she started traveling with the Surfer. Her backstory is very weird. We'll get into it after we read the issue because it'll reveal some things. But when Mantis reaches adulthood, the Kree mind wipe her and send her out into the world to gain life experience. But I guess when she was with the Kree, they trained her in martial arts, so she's really good in like kung fu and whatnot. And she's also an empath. She can like control people's feelings or feel their feelings or whatever. And so she, of course, when they send her out in the world to gain life experience, what would you do, Michael? Because I'll tell you what Mantis did. She became a prostitute
That's what I would have done.
At a Vietnamese bar. She's a waitress and a prostitute. And that's where the swordsman met her. Because, he was still a criminal in these days.
He was soliciting intercourse? Yeah.
I believe so. But, of course, he fell in love with her. And she restores his confidence and convinces him to join the Avengers. And then she follows him. And she kind of became a member of the team as well.
Very cool.
So, and we'll get into their history here throughout this book. There's a lot of info provided. But you mentioned Steve Englehart, how he created her and kept her. He actually made Mantis one of the most interesting characters in all the comics because he carried Mantis with him when he went to DC and Eclipse. Yes,
right.
And even when he wrote his own fictional novel, he used the character. Like when he was at DC, it was the same character, but he called her Willow. And then I think in Eclipse it was Lorelei. But it was the same backstory, the same celestial Madonna and all that other stuff.
Really? See, I didn't know he used all that backstory. I thought, did she speak the same way as well?
I think so, because she has a very unique way of speaking. Like, yeah, she says this one when she refers to herself. She'll say this one doesn't. And like it became so ingrained with the character, like that Marvel. Even if you go to official Marvel pages and you read her story, her history, they include the stuff she did in DC and Eclipse, and they give aliases for her as Lorelei and Willow, even though they were never her aliases in Marvel.
See, that's freaking cool.
Yeah, like, can you think of another character that would possibly challenge this? Like,
okay. I got one, because I was as you were telling the story, I was thinking of who else, and it could be Howard the Duck, because
that's the only one I was going to think of too. Because
because when he went to he used Destroyer Duck, right, for whatever company that was, Pacific Comics. But then
when you're saying Steve Gerber,
Steve Gerber. And then later he had that crossover story, right, where he had a story where the soul of the real Howard the Duck left the Marvel Universe and went, right?
Yeah, I think that was for Image, right?
Yeah, there was like a crossover between Howard the Duck and Dragon or something like that. I'm not sure. But he
I think it was Savage Dragon. Right. I think it was.
He used the story as an in-story way to explain that at that point, the real Howard the Duck left the Marvel Universe. Kind of just for his own peace of mind, right?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Smart.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Interesting. So, all right. I think that's all the background we need on these people.
All right.
We'll fill in more about Mantis like when we're done, because her story gets a little weirder. But
yes.
All right, let's start off with the Avengers issue 129.
All right. So we got Marvel Comics Group, the classic ribbon at the top, 25 cents, 129, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the classic logo, the Avengers with the arrow. We got the corner bubble, or the corner circle with the Vision in it, which is really cool, right?
And then I think that's John Romita Sr. and Gil Kane.
Nice.
Did that Vision, yeah.
Then we got this really cool cover of Kang, kind of like a giant Kang standing amidst the Avengers with his hands out, and he's like, Kang the Conqueror has a message for the world. Bid tomorrow goodbye. And we have the classic, like, explosion lines behind him. Not explosion lines, but you know what I mean, like action lines coming out from behind him. And the Avengers are below him: Mantis, Swordsman, Vision, Thor, and Iron Man. And they're flailing about trying to fight him. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. And there's like smoke along the ground and everything. Right. And the way it's colored, like around Kang, it's yellow and then orange and bright red in the back. It's a great cover, and it's drawn by Ron Wilson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. I wonder why he would do this one. But yeah, he's a good artist for sure.
Yeah, I love this cover though. If I was a kid and I saw this, I would be buying the hell out of this book.
Yep, me too.
Good old Kang.
And then it's kind of funny because, we were going to do Giant Size number 2, but then we went back because this is supposed to be the beginning of the story. But here we are mid-story. Maybe we should have done another issue, right?
He just pops up at the end of the previous story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I just read this today, so let's hope I can remember this. But Kang is standing with his back to the reader, and he's yelling at the Avengers, basically. And he's like, that star is a signal to me, Avengers. So there's a big star in the sky behind the Avengers.
Yeah, it's over Avengers Mansion, I guess.
Right. And yes.
But how could you... Wouldn't it be over a lot of things?
Well, you know how.
Wouldn't it be also, depending on where you're standing, it would also be, be tough to tell. But yeah, anyway.
Good point. And he's like, a beacon across the shifting centuries, calling Kang the Conqueror to finally subjugate you, your backward era. With its appearance in mind, you must bid tomorrow goodbye. And that's the title of the book. I love when they do that. They put the title in the book in a word bubble, So cool.
Yeah, and they make the font real big and blue and stuff. So
yeah, like a logo. Yeah. And so, the Avengers are all standing there in the street. And then for some reason, they're with Agatha Harkness. That's her name, right?
Yeah, because she had just been training Scarlet Witch in magic.
Okay. So she happens to be standing there. Scarlet Witch is with them. And we get a little bubble at the beginning at the bottom telling the readers to make sure that they read this story before Giant Size Avengers number 2, right? So
I actually did it in reverse order.
Yeah, see, because it's true. Because back in those days, I remember, you bought your comics at a newsstand, right? So sometimes you didn't know what you were going to get, right? So if you didn't know there was an annual coming out, you might not buy it, right? So.
And look at Agatha Harkness. She's holding her little cat. but I don't remember the cat ever appearing anywhere else in the book. But or maybe the
could
cat
be a red
does.
herring. Who knows? Could be meeting to that.
Do you know what her cat's name is? By the way, I'm a big cat fan. So
do you?
I don't know.
No,
I don't.
No,
I was just.
So basically, so right away they start fisticuffs, eh?
Well, yeah, they're going to fight Kang, and Thor chucks his hammer at him. Mjolnir.
Right.
Throws Mjolnir at him.
Isn't it Mjolnir? Is that you said Mjolnir? Okay.
Mjolnir. I don't know. I have no idea how to say it.
Okay, I think it's
Mjolnir.
But I think there's a Norwegian guy that said it's not how it's pronounced. It's actually something different. Oh. But whatever, yeah.
It's actually pronounced Dave, which is strange. Right.
Anyway, he throws his hammer at Kang, but it bounces off because Kang is a force field, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then Kang, he brings out the heavy artillery to fight back. He's like, one cannot conquer without opposition. I want you to oppose me. Lacking that, I gain no conquest. And through previous battles. And though our previous battles have proven inconclusive, I now plan to sweep over you like the seas. I love that. Yeah. Behold what mastery of 41st century brings me. Behold the macrobots. And we see these three kind of like pink and blue robots just running towards the Avengers now.
Let me just chime in here because he says, behold what mastery of the 41st century science brings me.
Right.
Because even though he was born in the 31st century, they explain this later on, but he went back to Egypt as Rama-Tut. And then when the Fantastic Four drove him off, he overshot the 31st century and he went to the 41st century. Yeah. So then he gained technology from that era too. So yeah, he jumps all over the place, this Kang.
So cool. So then we get another classic. We get like a logo, but not the same logo on the cover of Avengers Assemble in like logo font. Everybody running towards the macrobots.
And when you're saying everybody, we should point out it's Thor, Iron Man, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Swordsman, and Mantis.
Right, not Agatha Harkness.
Agatha Harkness and her cat aren't running at him either. But no Captain America here on this Avengers team.
Good point.
So
then, so basically Thor, runs in with Mjolnir and hits one of the robots. But the robot does the old Sal Buscema thing where he like hits them and then they go flying. It's actually a Jack Kirby thing, but Sal Buscema does it too. And this is Sal Buscema, right? Yeah, it's the other one. It's Dave Cockrum, right? Okay. So anyways, and then Iron Man is shooting them with his repulsor rays, right? And then Vision decides he's going to use his trick where he can adjust his density.
But the Vision figures out like these robots, they're absorbing whatever they hit him with and channeling it back at the person.
Right.
So when Thor cracked him with the hammer, he just absorbed that energy and turned it back on Thor. Same thing's happening with Iron Man. So like you said, the Vision's using his old robot head, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna phase into him, and that's gonna monkey with his insides."
Right.
But it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. And then what's her name? Mantis comes in and uses her martial arts, right?
Yes, because if Thor, God of Thunder, hitting him with a hammer won't work, this 115-pound barefoot woman kicking him in the chest will topple him to the ground.
Right. And then so that doesn't work, obviously. So then Scarlet Witch comes in. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to use my hex powers. So she uses her hex powers to knock off some bricks off of a building. They don't.
Yes.
They of course fall down and hit Mantis, Scarlet Witch, and Agatha Harkness in the head.
I love that it hits Harkness.
Yeah.
Look at that old broad just getting conked right in the head.
Right.
And look, no cat anywhere. So
you're right.
I don't know.
Cat's gone.
Yeah.
That's it. The Avengers are defeated. It was simple as that, right?
Yep. 41st century technology took them down.
Yep. And then the cops pull up and they're like,
Hey, Michael, I hate to interrupt again, but do you think in the 41st century they have crowbars with flashlights?
I hope so. I was going to ask about that. I was waiting for him to pull that out, but
yes. Anyway, go ahead.
So then the cops pull out, and one of the cops is like, "Not even
this
your."
Is so weird.
What? The threat?
Well, he makes a joke about his boudoir. He's like, this will occupy, Kang says, this will occupy at least a chapter of my memoirs. And the cop says, not even in your boudoirs, Halloween nose. You're under arrest.
What kind of a slur is that, eh? Halloween nose.
So
you're under
weird.
arrest, and you're my target, not the robots. I like how he specified that. And then Kang just like motions his hand. He's like, mindless lackeys, and the cops go flying. They're gone, right?
Yeah, because it's like he expands his force field to knock him out. Like,
right.
Push him out.
And I like how he says my person, not me or I. My person is never without its protective force field. So then just at that moment, Jarvis runs out. I guess he's going to get into the fray, right?
Yes.
But nope, he gets shot, paralyzed, so he's down.
Yeah, Kang shoots him with like a laser beam out of his finger.
Right. He's got finger blasters. Oh, by the way, I love this next shot of Kang standing there against the wall with like that cross-hatched shadow. Isn't that a cool image?
Oh, the third panel with the red background? Yeah, it's striking.
I just think it's
but how do you feel about the way Sal draws Kang's head? Because he looks like a deep sea diver.
Yeah,
like this kind of helmet.
It's different from like the classic Kang, but I still like it though. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, usually Kang's helmet is tight to his head.
Right.
Here it's like, he's like a deep sea diver guy.
Totally.
Like Deep Six from G.I. Joe. Remember Deep Six?
Oh yeah, I remember Deep Six. Yep. But yeah, so basically, and then he's got the power of teleportation, right? So he uses his 41st or 30th or 31st technology to teleport them. And then he's like, heed me, you fools, and hear of the Dawn Star. The few records of your era which survived to mine were unclear as to the exact date of its coming, and the electrostatic disturbances in your branch of the time stream have prevented my searching it out. But should I keep reading?
Well, do you want to I think he explains what this is all about here.
Yeah, so basically, he knew that this was supposed to signal like the coming of the Celestial Madonna, right? But he doesn't know who it's going to be. And this star is supposed to signal when she's arriving, right?
Yeah, so since it's above Avengers Mansion or whatever, he thinks like, oh, it's one of these three Avenger ladies. Now let's review these ladies, Michael. We got Scarlet Witch. Okay, that seems appropriate. Yeah, she could, maybe give birth to the savior.
Messiah.
Mantis. Yeah, that sounds about. Yeah, that seems right. Agatha Harkness.
Yeah.
75-year-old Agatha Harkness.
You never know.
So I guess Kang in the 41st century, they never had sex ed classes, or he never learned about the female reproductive system. But yeah, she's not having babies.
Unlikely. Yep.
But so I'm thinking like, hey, why did they do this? Like, it's so silly. Like, why would he take Agatha Harkness with him? But then it becomes painfully clear later on why he had to take Agatha Harkness with him.
Well, I'm sure also Steve Englehart needed 3 options. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very dramatic, right?
Right, two would have been fine, just one or the other. But there's a clear reason why he needed that we'll get to in a bit.
Yes, I think I remember now. But we'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, so he zaps the... Oh, I like this too. So he teleports the Avengers away, and I love this. Swordsman is left, and he's like, what? I am still here. I wasn't transported. What are your plans for me, Kang? And he's like, you, Swordsman? You are a weakling and a blunderer, while my plans call for powerful male Avengers. Thus, I plan nothing for you but a scornful farewell.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Like, what a diss, eh? So yeah,
Swordsman's like, he didn't even care about me. He thumbed his nose at me, his Halloween nose at me, like I was nothing. Blast you, Kang! You'll see what I can do.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a vision of Agatha Harkness appears in the sky, talking to the Swordsman, right?
Yeah,
and,
Agatha Harkness. She makes B. Arthur seem like a looker. Because, Agatha Harkness. Not too foxy, this Agatha Harkness. But
and she's using her magic to, she's like, I appear to you through supernatural means. It is my sole recourse, since Kang's science seems to negate our physical powers. So, That's how she's able to communicate with him, through magic, right?
And that's why she had to be kidnapped, or otherwise the story ends right there.
Yeah,
because
right.
Agatha Harkness is the one who fills in all the background. She tells them where they're at, what Kang's doing. So yeah, without him kidnapping the elderly woman to have sex with. Oh, because that's the plan here. Kang is getting these ladies because when he finds out who's the Celestial Madonna, he's going to make sweet, sweet love to her and put a baby in her. And he's going to be the father of the, the Celestial Messiah.
This is true.
That's the plan here.
Now, when you say have sex, is it going to be like, buy her dinner, take her to like Dairy Queen,
No.
goofy golf, or what is it going to be?
He's going to have her.
He's going to have his
unquote.
way with her. Ah, okay.
I think that's an exact quote. I will have her. We get into that a little bit later. But this Kang, he's quite the romancer here.
Right.
But do you think like he's like, even Kang, even though he took all three, he's like really hoping it's Scarlet Witch or Mantis? It's like...
Jesus Christ, I hope it's not that witch. The 93-year-old.
Anyway, so Agatha Harkness tells them where Kang took them. He took them to the pyramid of the pharaoh Ramatut.
Right.
Because you remember he used to be Ramatut.
Yes.
So over in Egypt. So Swordsman's like, all right, I'll rally some troops or something. Or I want to come get them because I'm swordsman. And here I come.
Yeah, so he jumps in. What is it? Is this the Quinn? No, this is not a Quinjet. What is this?
I don't know.
Some kind of ship.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's going to go get help. And so what happens here? He gets attacked? Who's he getting attacked by? I have no idea.
Well, he's thinking back. We also need to mention that how Mantis actually kind of broke up with him before this.
Right.
So he has a lot of internal conflict here because he's getting over their failing love life. Because, Michael, get a load of this. Mantis has tossed Swordsman aside for the robot Vision. This Vision guy, he's a robot, and he's got Scarlet Witch and Mantis after him.
Yeah, see, I didn't know about this romance. I had no idea.
Yeah. Now Vision's not exactly like, in with Mantis, but Mantis is chasing after the Vision. She's trying to woo him. And we should mention, this is pre-antenna Mantis. So if you're picturing Mantis with the antenna,
gotcha.
Yeah, she does not have the antenna yet. We'll explain that later. But she has like Caucasian skin here, like normal tone skin, not because normally she'd be like for a German lady, half German lady. But she is not blue. What is she's green a lot of the times, right?
Yes, that's right. She almost becomes like a vegetable woman, doesn't she?
Yes, I will explain that later.
That's right. Okay, I forgot about that. Anyway.
So
now she's flying towards the pyramid, and this is where...
But in the movies, Michael, doesn't she have like whitish skin in the movies, but antenna?
Well, she's in the movies, she's human, but she has antenna, so yeah.
Well, she's not really human. She has like a weird forehead, like an alien kind of shaped head.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right.
But because she doesn't get the antenna in the comics until she comes like part plant.
Okay, but see, they also in the movies she doesn't talk with that speech pattern though.
Yeah, right? She kind of talks weird in the movies, but
different.
Anyway.
So anyway, Swordsman is flying towards the pyramids, and then he gets attacked by these jets, which make his ship crash. And Agatha is still talking to him, trying to give him instructions, trying to get him to go the right way and all that. And then we cut in and we see that Kang is watching it on his computer screen there, and then he realizes, wait a minute, I thought you maintained too serene a silence since you awakened, old woman. So he figures out that she's been communicating with him and shoots her with a laser, right?
Oh yeah, did we explain who's attacking him? Swordsman? It's the Egyptian Air Force.
Is it?
He infiltrated their airspace.
Okay.
They're attacking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like Kang sent up those ships. They were just Egyptian.
Gotcha, okay.
Air
I
Force,
missed that. Where does it say that?
It's throughout if you read it.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Anyway, so his ship goes down, and so then Kang realizes it's her, so he shoots her with a laser, and he's kind of like boasting and all that stuff, and then basically he decides this is a perfect moment to explain my origin, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and this is awesome. I love this stuff. So basically, he explains he was born in the 31st century. He comes across a time machine, builds a ship that looks exactly like a sphinx for some reason.
Yeah.
Uses it
what do you think the implication is that the Sphinx in Egypt is his time machine?
Ooh, or it was based on a ship. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
So he flies to ancient Egypt and becomes a pharaoh, Pharaoh Ramatut. And then basically he's like, I was forced to abandon the Sphinx and use a smaller time sphere to travel back to the present, but this is where he overshoots and he goes to the 41st century, and then that's when he becomes Kang, right? So first he wasn't Kang, he was just a regular guy, right?
Yeah, he's Ramatut. Yeah.
Well, before that he was nobody, right? He was just a guy. Yeah.
Good question. Well, he's Nathaniel Richards.
Yeah, but I don't even know if he. But I don't think he was revealed as Nathaniel Richards at this time yet, as far as I know. So he's just a guy. Then he became Ramatut, then Kang. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds
so
about
then
right.
It's because he says and I became Kang. So he becomes Kang, and he's talking to no one. I guess the reader. And then all of a sudden, Mantis and Scarlet Witch wake up. And Mantis is like, if you seek men, warrior, then you will not fear to free this one, because she's a woman, right? And then Scarlet Witch is like, let us both lose Kang, and we'll show you a thing or two about conquest. Bah! My caged canaries sing like catbirds. Be thankful that I have not discovered which of you is my bride to be, but I hope it's not Agatha, for the other two would not long survive that discovery. So then we cut to outside and we see Swordsman. He's talking about how he spent a lot of years bumming around the world, hiring myself out for any dirty job that was at hand. And once or twice, that included pyramid robbing. So that shows why he's able to use his sword to break into this pyramid, right?
Yeah, he knew, he jams his sword in there and shoots an energy blast, and it dislodges a block. And he says, that was the key block, all right. I guess that part of my life wasn't entirely wasted. Huh. All that experience pyramid robbing really came in handy.
Yeah, because there's so many pyramids all over the world. But anyway. So then, and then this is my least favorite part of the story. It's not enough that, we've got Kang and the pyramids and now we got to have a big red vampire bat creature.
Yeah, a red demon, winged demon.
Yeah, wearing a green loincloth. I love this. And then the narrator is actually like, there should be nothing alive in this tomb. Since the time of Ramatut's disappearance 5,000 years ago, this shrine has not seen either air nor water. The swordsman's dark mind flashes one white word. Vampire. And for once, don't you know he's right?
How do you feel about the panel on the left on the bottom? Like the narration is written on like a brick and it's angled.
It's okay.
It's weird.
I don't hate it, but
they do that a couple times in here with like angled narration in corners of panel. It's a little strange, but
yeah. Well, also, then all of a sudden the narration's like he thinks of Robert E. Howard, who of course is the author of the Conan stories, right? And then he's like, his mind is large and dark, and he fills it with a picture of a barbarian swordsman slashing single-mindedly at torchlit vampires. The reality of the image is overwhelming. He sees himself in that picture, and he is content, truly content for the first time in days. This is ridiculous. But anyway, for he is immersed in his element. Yeah, it's just ridiculous fighting this thing. And then all of a sudden, this is a platoon of.
Yeah, he stabs the demon through the neck, through the throat.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
But the demon, it doesn't stop him. The demon's still coming for him, and he has him by the throat, and he's about to bite his throat.
Right, but then the Egyptian soldiers come storming through down the hallway, and then it's funny because then the bat creature, it's like then the narrator's like, for 5,000 years, this Night Stalker has existed with no air or water, or sleep, or blood. And he has a choice, one man or a platoon. So he leaves Swordsman alone to go and bite the platoon, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. So he's gone. What a weird scene.
And Swordsman's like so scared. He's like, Lord, 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 I'm alive. I'm alive. He seems like a real blunderer and a weakling. I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
So
true.
Kang nailed him.
Yeah. He described him to
knew
a
what
T.
he's doing. Yeah.
So then, So then, what is this?
He sees a how do you say that?
Yeah,
say that word, Michael.
I don't know how.
Sarcophagus, right?
Yeah, I
an
think
Egyptian.
So.
Is it a scar? Yeah, an Egyptian crypt. We'll go.
Yes, there you go.
And like he sees it and he gets scared and he starts running away. Like, what is this swordsman guy? How did he become an Avenger? Oh my God.
I got a feeling he's not going to last much longer, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Foreshadowing, yeah.
So, yeah, as he's running... So then this mirror appears, right? A second mirror cunningly placed takes the dim light of sunlight from the first one and shines it on the mummy case. The mummy case opens, he runs away, and then Swordsman is...
I like mummy case much better than Sarcophagus.
Yeah,
or whatever.
You're right.
Mummy case.
So then a door opens, and... he hears Kang's voice, and then Kang is like watching him through the screen. And now Kang's talking about this bat creature. He's like, when I forced him to drink the nectar of the undead, I wouldn't have bet he'd survive a century, ladies. Oh, so maybe this bat creature appeared in like the Fantastic Four story. Who knows?
And Michael, it's sarcophagus, not sarcophagus. I knew it didn't sound right.
Yeah.
Sarcophagus. All right, there it is.
So then, this is all on the computer screen, right? Like we see the bat creature biting the necks of the necks of these Egyptian soldiers, and then he gets exposed to sunlight. So I guess he survived 5,000 years, and then he lasted 5 minutes once he was let out.
Yeah, can't handle the sunlight.
Yeah,
like me.
Yeah. And then Kang's like, ha ha ha, that is sufficient. Every single source of possible annoyance has died. No one remains to interfere with this phase of my grand scheme, and by the time Egyptian reinforcements arrive, the Avengers and I shall be gone. So he's still talking, and then he decides to open up one of the macrobots to let Vision out, right? He's like, well,
no, he's putting them in the macrobots.
Oh, he's putting them in. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he hasn't put them in yet. Okay.
Because they're going to fuel the macrobots. They're going to be the energy sources for the macrobots.
So basically these robots look exactly like humans on the outside, but like pink robots. But on the inside they're like robot shells. And yeah, the Vision, Iron Man, and Thor each get placed in one. And these big double, like almost like full page splashes. It's pretty cool. And but they can't control their bodies, but they can still think, so we can read their thoughts here, right?
Yeah, we get in all their heads. Which is a little strange. That's exactly right, Michael.
Yep. And Kang's like, I'm going to start World War III. And so then he's like, within hours I shall strike at the planet's greatest leaders, and the resulting chaos will swiftly inflame the world. Kang shall rule over all, and the conquest of the galaxies will begin. So he's not just stopping at Earth. He's going to conquer the whole universe, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. So just then, Swordsman is about to strike from behind, but just as he's about to, a blue hand comes and pulls him away from the opening in the wall. And he's like, and then the voice is like, you must not destroy Kang. And Swordsman's like, but I almost had him. I almost made it. Who the devil are you? Then we see the revelation. I am Ramatut. What could this mean?
Yeah, the old Pharaoh, Ramatut. Even though his hand was blue in those two panels, I think there's just a coloring mishap.
Yeah,
because
totally.
It's just. But yeah, this looks like a pretty good place to take a break. But you already know the thrilling 30-page conclusion to this little yarn is awaiting in the now on sale Giant Size Avengers 2. Meanwhile, in this regular book next month, Madonna. Dun, dun, dun.
Hope she does Borderline.
Nah, this is pre-Madonna Borderline. This is, yeah.
Okay.
This is foretelling the coming of Madonna.
Okay.
But
so
Avengers 129. What do you think, Mike?
Are we gonna talk? Oh, we're gonna talk about it now. I thought it was. I mean, it's fine. Like it was maybe slightly better than I thought it would be. But this is one of those Steve Englehart comics that I spent 15 years buying, never read it, and sold it. So I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I'd give it maybe a 6 out of 10. What about you?
6 sounds about right. Yeah, it's the art's good Sal Buscema art. Mm-hmm. The Joe Staton.
I think it's Staton. I don't know.
His inking, I like his inking. He uses thick lines when he inks.
Well, and this really, to be honest, it's kind of slicker than most Sal Buscema art of this era. So I really like the way it turned out.
Yeah, I like the art. I don't know if I like how he draws Kang with the big helmet.
Right.
But the writing here is kind of ridiculous for a lot of it. So I don't know, but it was entertaining.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
It was what I would expect of an Avengers comic from this era, you know.
All right, so let's get to the giant-sized one now, because let's
just remind our listeners we are doing 2 comics for the first time ever on Flea Market Fantasy. This is a new era. Okay, so giant-size Avengers number 2. Now, just for the record, this always confused me. I always thought when I was a kid the giant-size comics were the temporary replacement for annuals, but they weren't. Didn't they run concurrently, or am I wrong about that?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Because I think sometimes they would have both in one year. And then there was this weird period where, like, I think Giant Size X-Men was supposed to be quarterly, and they would have giant size issues of series that didn't otherwise exist. Like, I found out this week there was a giant size Spider-Man and Doc Savage. Did you know about this?
No.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I'm looking it up right now.
How did they explain that Doc Savage is in 1934 and Spider-Man was in
good
modern
question.
day?
I don't know. I've never read it, but it's also one of those ones I bet you they can't reprint because Marvel doesn't own the rights to Doc Savage, right? So,
I guess not.
I might have to chalk this up to a future episode of Flea Market Fantasy. Anyway,
sure.
Okay, so Giant Size Avengers number 2, 68 pages. We got the Vision again up on the top bubble. And then, because so many annuals and giant size were reprints at the time, we see this little arrow saying "new," and the caption is like Kang the Conqueror, Ramatut, the Mad Pharaoh, plus the shocking, soul-searing death of an Avenger. I wonder who it could be. And then
because on the left we have Ramatut and Kang, like they're big again, and they're looking down at the Avengers. And we have Iron Man on the ground, like beaten up. So you're like, oh no, Iron Man's going to die.
Could be.
Iron
you
Man's
never know.
Die. But who else is on the cover here, Michael? What other Avengers?
Swordsman, Captain America, Vision, and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, Captain America. But he's not in this story.
Funny. It's kind of tricky. And who did this cover?
Ron Wilson again.
Really? That's so weird. Why would he, he's a good artist, but why would he do it not, Dave Cockrum?
Yeah, I don't know. He could have taken another swing at Kang, I think. His head looks a little smushed.
This cover narrow. Is okay. It's not great, though.
It's not so good. The first cover is great, but this cover not so much. So
we jump in, and this is, again, Steve Englehart, Dave Cockrum on art, and we got to mention Tom Orzechowski on lettering.
I thought you were going to go with the inker, but all right.
No,
I guess Cockrum did the inking.
Yeah, right. Oh, Bill Mantlo coloring. That's weird. Huh.
Whoa, that is strange.
Okay. The title is A Blast from the Past.
And here's the editor, Michael. Our boy Roy.
That's
Thomas.
Right, Roy Thomas. Right. And we open up with Hawkeye kind of like jumping through the air, shooting an arrow. It's a really cool shot.
Yeah, it's a great splash page.
Yeah, I love this. Hawkeye the marksman, and basically Hawkeye is in the middle of foiling another crime, right?
Would you like to read all the warnings on this page, Michael?
Oh, geez, there's so many. Warning! Be sure you read the first part of the story first. You'll find it in Avengers number 129, now on sale. If you don't need this warning, you're going to mess up a lot. Oh, if you don't heed this warning. Yeah, you're going to mess up a lot of reading enjoyment. Warning! To those of you who did read the first part, this is the second part. Even if it may not immediately appear so, keep flipping through those pages, Tiger. Warning! Too many warnings will keep us away from the action. So then we jump into the action, right?
A little humor there.
Yep.
That's got to be our boy Roy putting in those warnings, right?
Right. They were having so much fun back in those days. Anyway. So yeah, Hawkeye's shooting some arrows at these crooks who are running away, shooting guns at him, but those guns are no match for his arrows.
I like how Hawkeye's just swinging down with a rope tied around his chest, like under his arms. It's just a rope tied around.
And then it just falls off when he needs it to, when
he lands. But look, Michael, he puts an arrow right in the barrel of the guy's gun. Yeah, just right in there.
Sharpshooter there, eh?
Yeah.
So then, so basically that was just like a cold open, right? Like that little thing that's done with. Then he gets on the horn, right? And he's going to call the police. So the police come, and it's funny. I like this, how the cop guilts him. He's like, hey, how come you weren't at Avengers Mansion? Me, I quit the Avengers over a year ago. You know that, Keegan. Well, sure. But if my buddies were in big trouble, I'd be with them. Trouble? What kind? The worst. King the Conqueror kidnapped him just before dawn, and he claimed he was gearing up for World War III. Hey, I thought you quit. And then Hawkeye's running away.
Yeah, he's running to Avengers Mansion.
So yeah, basically Hawkeye runs, and this is where he sees that big star that we saw in the last issue, right?
Yep.
Floating, I guess, over Avengers Mansion. I guess it's not a very big star. It's not the size of a real star. And so then he goes to Avengers Mansion, and he's like, hey, at least they didn't change the locks. And he opens it up. Yoo-hoo, your prodigal son is come to call. Some superhero I am, huh?
And I hate to point this out, Michael, but they misuse prodigal son.
What do you mean?
Everyone always misuses it. Well, prodigal does not mean go away and come home, which is how they're using it here.
Oh,
that's not what prodigal means. It means wasteful.
Oh.
Wasteful. The Bible story, the son was wasteful and extravagant, and he squandered his benefits in life.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
But everyone always uses it wrong, and it's a pet peeve.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, just to clear that up.
Fair point. So anyway, everyone's gone, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. But then, of course, Jarvis is there. I love this dramatic thing where, like, Jarvis puts his hand on his shoulder, and we get, like, a one panel of suspense where he's like, huh? And then he turns around, and Jarvis is behind him. Jarvis, don't creep around like that, will you? I'm sorry, Master Hawkeye. I've been ill. And then this little note, since Kang paralyzed him in Avengers number 129. I love that. And then basically,
paralyzed him.
Yeah, Jarvis explains how Kang teleported them all away and blah, 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 and flashback and all that. And then just at that moment, Ramatut and Swordsman come kind of walking into the kitchen. Is this the kitchen? I don't know what this is.
I don't know.
It's like,
I don't know where they're
a computer console. I guess it's not the kitchen.
Yeah.
So they're chatting it up, and basically Ramatut is trying to convince Hawkeye that he's on his side. He's like, "Don't worry, just trust me." I'm not gonna explain. Just trust me. He's like, "Okay, fine." So basically, that's that. And
hey, can we go back a minute though, Michael?
Sure.
Go back up 2 pages to the advertisements.
Oh, sure.
Because I want to read. There's a little comic strip here. Read this story if you want to, quote, get it all together, end quote, when you get out of the service.
You want me to read this? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one day, a few months after we both got out of the service, I ran into my old buddy Pete, and we see a couple sitting at like a restaurant, and there's another guy. Pete, how you making out? Not too good, Joe. I can't seem to hack it. No job I can get pays any money. He's like, looks like you're doing all right, though. I'll say I'm in... Oh, that's the same guy. Looks like you're all right, though. I'll say I'm in electronics and have my FCC license. Electronics? How'd you work that, Joe? CIE, Pete. CIE helped me learn electronics on my off-duty hours by mail. It's the science of the 70s, man.
That's awesome. So you can write away the Cleveland Institute of Electronics, CIE. And you can get 2 free books. Just write to.
There you go.
Electronics.
Yep.
Science of the 70s. All right. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So yeah, Swordsman and Ramatut jump in and they fill them all in with the details. And they're like, hey, we have to go help the Avengers. And Hawkeye says, hey, you've been doing good work there, Swordsman. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but we made a pretty good team back when you taught me archery. And we will again. But that was when we were carnival hands. Now we are Avengers. And he screams it.
But I love Hawkeye's thought bubble. Yeah, 2 of them, the weakest 2, next to the Wasp.
Yeah, what a dig at the Wasp. I hate... The only reason they included the Wasp is because she's a lady. That's right. The only reason. Because she is way more powerful than these 2 chumps.
True, totally. She has actual powers. And she has a Wasp sting. Anyway.
Just because she's a lady.
Right. So then back to, I guess, is this in the 41st century? Is that where they are? No, they're in the present.
They're still in Egypt.
Yeah, okay, they're in Egypt though. And we see that the Macrobots' bodies are like, kind of like, around the 3 Avengers, Vision, Iron Man, and Thor. half around them anyway. And Kang's kind of explaining what's going on, and basically, he's like, nothing to say, ladies.
Yes.
What's that?
Yeah, the third panel. We got to definitely read the third panel on the bottom there.
Wait.
Because
then Kang will rule what remains, and when one of you ladies comes to know her destiny, as my fragmentary records reveal will occur soon, Kang will have you, and that will be that.
That's right, he's gonna have her.
Yes,
he's gonna have her, and that'll be that. So that's the classy way of saying rape you.
Yeah, I know. Jeez.
1974. So, yeah.
And then it's funny because then we get the thoughts of like Scarlet Witch is like, it must be me. Mantis is anything but a Madonna.
Wow. What a shot at Mantis.
I know.
Because you know why? Because she is a Vietnamese hooker, Michael. She was in that bar working as a prostitute. So how can she be a Madonna?
Right.
Yeah.
She's like, the completeness he mentioned must be my turning to witchcraft. And then Mantis is like, it must be Wanda. This one feels no vibrations, no empathy with this concept. Good, let her marry Kang and leave this one the vision. And I guess Agatha doesn't get a thought bubble, but anyway.
Yeah, well, she's knocked unconscious. Because remember, he shot her with that
laser,
little...
right. Yeah.
But notice neither one of them says, hey, I bet it's Agatha.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
85-year-old woman.
Right.
I bet she's the...
So then Kang's like, nothing to say, ladies? Then observe, for now that we have abandoned the Egyptian pyramid, for my time sphere, we have come to the first battle. So then he lands outside the United Nations and he unleashes his macrobots, right? Yeah,
like the spaceship is invisible to the human eye. So like the little macrobot just appears out of nowhere. Like he kind of walks out of an invisible ball.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
And then and inside this macrobot is the Vision.
Yeah, he's powering them. Yeah.
Right. And then out of nowhere comes, materializing is Hawkeye, Swordsman, and a mysterious stranger wearing a green trench coat. Who could that be?
This is so great. A trench coat and a hat.
Right, but his legs are showing. I love that. That's so funny. Anyway, so Swordsman uses his laser sword to like shoot one of the macrobots in the face. And Macrobot shoots back. And then Hawkeye shoots another one with an arrow, and then the one of the macrobots like smacks the ground, whoom, and like they all go flying, right? And they're basically, and then all this time, the guy in the trench coat and the hat is just kind of laying low, right? He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And then Hawkeye, and then what's his name? Swordsman's like, why doesn't he do something? Have I been tricked? Was I wrong to believe when he confronted me in the tomb from out of nowhere? No, Ramatot has helped by showing us where Kang would attack. He's playing some deeper game. So then, meanwhile, they're still fighting. And then Kang sees the guy in the trench coat. He's like, these Avengers lack the raw power to defeat me, and this man might as well have stayed home.
Yeah.
I love that.
This guy in a trench coat and a hat, he might as well stayed home.
I love it.
And then Scarlet Witch has to intervene to like talk some sense into Kang. She's like, it was obviously he who teleported the Avengers here, Kang. Doesn't that worry you at all? To worry me, he would have to be my equal, Witch, and there is no such man.
I love that.
Da-da-da.
So then we see this really weird narrative like trick, I guess you could say. It just says break, the reflections of the Pharaoh. So now he's back to narrating, right?
Yeah, the Pharaoh's narrating.
Right,
yeah.
and so we see Kang. So this is technically Ramatot narrating, right? Like the guy in the trench coat is telling us about his past as Kang. And so Kang is, living the life. He's got women all around. He's got wine. And then he's like, and then I guess he had a wife, right?
Yeah, but she ended up in like suspended animation or something.
Right.
I don't know.
And then he's like, as my 60th year crept upon me, I realized the void I had made in my life. Oh, kind of like me. Conquest was a drug, stimulating only for a time, and in the end, I woke up alone. I vowed to retire from the field. So I left the 41st century with its royal city built on sand, and I returned to a happier time.
And again, Michael, we get the narration angled in the corner. It's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. So then he goes back once more to become Ramatut, right?
Yeah, so he goes back because he wants to do it right this time. He wants to be a benevolent leader. Like, he doesn't want to be a bad guy anymore. He wants to mend his ways.
Right. And so then he's like, I ruled them well. I finally felt fulfilled. But then then what happens here? Until I began to remember. And then it just cuts back to the action and he's talking again. He's like, Avengers, it is time for you to learn. Know this then, the robot's power stems from a vision within. So then they're like, oh, okay, so let's see how we can figure this one out. So then Hawkeye uses one of his trick arrows, right? And he's like, I know where the vision draws his power from. He absorbs light through the jewel on his forehead. And without lights, he runs down. So he shoots it's almost like an ink, like an octopus's ink thing that just explodes over the Macrobot's head.
And the sound effect, plug.
Yeah.
Plug. And we should point out to you kids who know the Avenger movies, no. The jewel on his head in the comics is a solar gem.
Right.
It's not a infinity stone. Right. Different.
So then this Macro robot doesn't know where anyone is, so he just starts punching, randomly and shooting randomly, and then eventually he falls down. And then Swordsman's
he runs out of power.
Right. And Swordsman's like, we did it, we won, we beat Kang. And then I love this. Kang, he's like yelling, but it says expletives deleted. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, they put it it's in a word balloon, but they put it in brackets.
Right.
Expletives deleted.
This is really good, yeah. But he's like, very well, I still have two robots powered by Iron Man and Thor. This battle is lost, but another awaits. So Vision now is pulled out of the Macrobot, so he's good to go. He's fine, right? So the Avengers, they kind of or not the Avengers, but Vision, Ramatut, Hawkeye, and Swordsman kind of reconvene. But then we have another break. Reflections of the Pharaoh. We cut back to more flashbacks, right?
Yep.
So then he's like, I had my decision as Kang. I had wasted life in fruitless warfare, the most fruitless of which was my assault on the Celestial Madonna. I had no choice but to reach forward 5,000 years to the 20th century and enter my own past. Whew! So this is where it gets a little bit convoluted. So now, what is he doing here? I don't even remember. There's so much text here.
Well, in order to get in the future, he locks himself in the sarcophagus.
Right.
And he sets it so when sunlight comes on the sarcophagus, it would open and free him.
So 5,000 years later, right?
Yes.
And so... yeah, so now they show him in the mummy's tomb, and he was like, and it was complete happenstance to the Swordsman. 5,000 years after I stepped into the case was a completely reliable part of my plan. I had only to save Kang from the Swordsman, for his death in my past would also be mine, and now I'm here to turn myself from my military madness. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so he knew that the Swordsman would be in this pyramid at this certain time and trip, or I don't know. Right. All this stuff gets so confusing.
It's very, but it's like a time loop. It's like a time paradox kind of.
Yeah.
So then we see that now Kang is getting Iron Man into one of these robot suits or Macrobot suits or whatever. And
I think he sends him to China, right? Yeah,
right,
King's Forbidden City. Yeah.
Right. And then he sends them there to fight the fill-in Avengers, whatever they are. And so basically now Scarlet Witch and Mantis are kind of yelling through the glass tubes, right? And
he sends them to China to take out the ruling family and cause trouble in China, but the Avengers teleport there to stop them. Yeah.
Right. And so then we cut over to Scarlet Witch and Mantis. And then you rave on and on, Kang, but you don't say much that turns out true. Bring harm to this one's man at your own peril, rash one. What? Since when is the Vision your man, lady? Pardon me, neither he nor I heard a thing about it. He's mine. And Mantis is like, oh, is he? Must he suffer slavishly then, while you play your games of neglect and abuse? Is that what you expect of a man? Listen here, I've been going through a rough time discovering myself. The Vision understands. In this one's land, a woman is taught to discover her man. And who are you,
Yeah.
Marco Polo? I love that. So yeah, they're arguing back and forth, and Kang's like, silence.
I like this Mantis though.
Yeah.
She exists solely to discover her man. That's what you want, yeah.
So they're arguing back and forth, and we cut over to China, and Hawkeye is, shoot.
Oh, wait. We like, after she says, "Who are you, Marco Polo?" Scarlet Witch says, "If you hadn't been so intent on exploration, your first man wouldn't be in the shape he's in." Ooh, taking a dig at the swordsman too.
Right. And then Mantis is like, "The swordsman is weak. He was not enough for me." Ooh, the swordsman, yeah.
And this Mantis, wow, she just man-eater, this Mantis. I tell you what. I'm in love, Michael.
So then we cut over, and Hawkeye is, he's shooting another one of his black ink things at this robot, but the robot still punches him in the head. Blam. And then Hawkeye's like, I guess nobody likes reruns. And he's like in the background, like recovering. It's kind of funny. And he's like, that was a stupid thing to do. The Vision can't be inside this one. Here, let me try. Yeah, see, that's like smart writing. I gotta admit, that's really smart. The fact that he would try to use the same trick, even though it's not the Vision inside, I think that's kind of cool. But anyway.
I suppose. It's fine. But so Swordsman walks over. I'm not a fan of any of this. So then Swordsman walks over, and he says, let me try. And the robot shoots at his feet some Kirby crackle.
Right.
Here, Michael.
Right.
And Swordsman's like, blast. Thrown for a loss again. Despite my breast beating, I can never do anything right. All I've done so far is find those who can. Poor Swordsman.
Right. You think they were setting him up? You think it's because they knew what was going to happen at the end? They were kind of like...
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. They didn't want to kill off like a popular character, right?
No. Nope.
So then Vision comes in, and he's flying towards one of these macrobots, but he just ends up bouncing off his chest, right? Thump. Yeah. And he's like, there's a force field surrounding Iron Man. I cannot touch him, but he must be freed. Yet there is one strategy which stands a chance. One I've been meaning to try. So he takes off his cape. And he's like,
I've never knew the Vision could do this, but
I didn't
explain
know
what happens.
He's like, the cloth of my special costume is an, how do you pronounce this? Amenable? Amenable to my command as my own body. By altering my cape's density to near zero and stuffing it inside the robot, near Iron Man, then willing it to solidify, patoom! It explodes. I don't know why it explodes, but who knows? And then there's a little
because two things cannot occupy the same space.
Old scientific law, it says.
Yeah, but since when could Vision control his cape like that?
Well,
he's not touching it in any way. Like the cape is no longer part of him. And
I think it's kind of like it's technically not a cape; it's part of his body. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I guess I don't know.
It's kind of weird.
Never heard of that before. Then.
So yeah, Iron Man is okay. The Macrobot's blown up. So then Kang is like, so he's like crying with outrage, right? He cannot abide this moment, not a moment more. And so then, and so what is this now? So he was going to go to Moscow, but he's like, thoughts of Moscow are abandoned. The third Macrobot, with all the power of Thor, will fight these cursed crusaders here now. What were you going to say?
Well, yeah, I was just going to explain that. Yeah, he was going to send them to Moscow, but yeah, he sends them in to fight the Avengers in China.
Right. So basically the Macrobot comes out and it punches Swordsman, wham. and then it's like the narration's like, and how do you stop something with the strength of a god? If you're Hawkeye or the Swordsman, you don't. Come to think of it, no matter who you are, you don't. Anyway. So then Kang's like, this time Kang himself guides the Macrobot's every motion. It will reach Iron Man and it will kill him. So the Macrobot grabs Iron Man and he's like frying Iron Man. And Hawkeye's like, he's frying like bad bacon. The Swordsman's like, no, wait, don't you see? Iron Man's not even resisting. And he always has the spunk for that. Okay. And he's using Thor's power to re-energize himself. So then he uses it to like, fly away, I guess? What is he doing there?
Yeah, he just like launches out of his grip to like knock him over, I guess.
Oh wait, I love this Kang. Too late, the temporal tyrant realizes he's been snookered. I love that.
Snookered.
Yeah. And then Vision...
because the Golden Avenger is reborn.
Right. And then Vision flies by the glass tubes that are holding those 3 potential Madonnas, and he shoots them with his lasers, and they explode all the glass.
2 potential Madonnas and Agatha Harkness.
Right. So then, and then it's funny because then Scarlet Witch is like, take care of Miss Harkness, Vision. She's still unconscious from Kang's rays. I have some lost time to make up for. And then Mantis is like, then we are united in that at least. I mean, yeah. The other thing, we'll forget about that. Okay, fine.
But then Scarlet Witch says, united, you and me, never.
Right. So then she shoots one of those macrobots. Boom. And then Hawkeye's like, holy crow, this ain't the Wanda I used to know. And then when Mantis is like, much has changed since you departed, Hawkeye. Neither do you know the skill of Mantis. And she uses her martial arts again, right?
Yes. And
then we see this full page splash of all the Avengers fighting this last microbot. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Mantis is on his back with her legs wrapped around his neck and karate chopping him in the head.
Right.
And it's weird that Iron Man and Vision have their backs to us, though. It's a little strange.
It is weird. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I'll give you that.
And they're shooting the Macrobot guy, and yeah.
Right. And we should point out the Vision still, his cape is gone, so he's capeless. He looks really weird without his cape. And so then Scarlet Witch uses one final hex, which, defeats the robot. Now the robot's down for the count.
Yeah, and again, everyone is cracking this dude with like all these energy blast, repulsor rays, solar gem blast, hex bolts, and there's Mantis wrapped around his head, karate chopping. Get off his neck.
Yeah.
Get out of the way, lady.
Yeah, get out of the way, right. And then she's like, so basically...
Oh, wait, so then Scarlet Witch uses one final hex to bring an asteroid from outer space.
Oh, is that what happened? Oh, yeah. Yes. See, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
To fly into the Macrobot.
It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, but like the asteroid is basically, it's only the size of a bowling ball, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Who cares, right?
It would be devastating though from that distance.
Destroy like half a city. Anyway, and then basically Mantis is like, the machine yet moves. Even that could not destroy it. And then Ramatut's like, that is good. There's been too much destruction already. And then he opens it up. He's like, I have refrained from action unless no other option presented itself for reasons I must shortly explain. Yet to free the final Avengers as I freed the Vision is a privilege and a pleasure. So Thor is fine. Right?
Yeah, so then we see Iron Man talking to Thor. And then the next panel, we see Ramatut right next to Kang. Like,
yeah. Yeah, like
it seems like we missed a few things there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden he's in his headquarters. Like I thought this was all outside, but I don't know.
Yeah, this was in China.
Yeah,
isn't Kang still in Egypt?
Good point. And then, so then Ramatut's talking to Kang, and let's keep in mind he still has a trench coat, yet bare-legged. He's got a hat and like a red scarf over his face, and he's like, "Your war has ended, Kang. There's nothing left. Heed your own words." And then we even have to have like a reference to when those words were heeded, or those words were spoken, which is Avengers 29, page 5. And then he's like, and recognize your loss. You dare speak thus to Kang? And then he shoots him with a laser, and he's like, reveal yourself, coward. Come out of your puerile disguise and show the face of him who defies my will. And sure enough, he's like, what? Are you kidding? Are you shit? He realizes it's Ramatut, right?
It's all too insane.
Right.
And then we get another break. Reflections of the Pharaoh.
So this is where Ramatut remembers this encounter, right?
Yeah. Like this is kind of like that story we did with Miles, that Fantastic Four story with the Pharaoh, oddly enough.
Yes.
When he fought Galactus, how they had that fight like so many times over the years, the centuries. Remember that?
But this is only one time loop. Like this is kind of like a Mobius strip, right? Like he remembers it happening, and so now it has to happen again from a different point of view.
Yes.
And we get this.
Yeah, because he says the first time we had this fight, I saw it through Kang's eyes. Now I'm seeing it through Ramatut's or whatever.
So cool. So anyway, so then we see this really very coolly designed page of Ramatut and Kang fist fighting, and then around them is this like funky 70s Dave Cockrum design of like these round and oddly shaped panels of like Doctor Doom and the Avengers and more Avengers and people I don't know.
Yeah, because it says, for as the two of us close, time ruptures.
Mm-hmm.
The past collides with the future to spill into the present. So I guess some of the, like, Yellow Jacket here, like we see, like he had become Yellow Jacket, or is this something they're teasing? Like it's going to happen?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That is a good question.
Yellow Jacket, Marvel Comics. Well, we'll have to look that up later.
Because then we see, like, who is that? The Grand Master? Who's that guy in the right there?
Grand
we see
Master. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Black Panther and Quicksilver.
Now, who's the woman at the bottom in the middle? Is that Scarlet Witch? Or no, that's not Scarlet Witch.
It looks like Scarlet Witch with a wacky hat.
Yeah, so
but
maybe
I have
that's
no
like
idea
teasing
who it
like a
is.
different costume or something that never came.
Yeah.
And then the next page is, I love this page too. This is Mantis, kind of like standing in the middle, and like all around is like, Vision, Mantis again, Vision, Swordsman, Kang fighting Ramatut. And he's like, Mantis, and then Kang's like, Mantis is the Madonna. Oh yeah, this is where he realizes, I feel her filling the future like a flower coming to bloom. And you are me. But how? Why? And this is where Ramatut explains, because of the Madonna, you had to be kept from her. So basically, yeah, he had to make sure this happened, right? Or no, he knew this is when Madonna was going to be revealed, so he had to make sure this happened the way it did, right?
Yeah, he couldn't let Kang the Conqueror get a hold of the Madonna. He had to come back and prevent that.
Right. So,
even though he himself is Kang the Conqueror. He had to prevent his evil self from doing this to the Madonna. He's trying to correct an evil that he did in his past. But
just then, right, the swordsman steps in. Get back, darling. Oh yeah, because Kang is like now threatening Mantis with a laser gun, right? And she's like, go ahead, you can't do it, right?
Yeah, he says, well, if Kang cannot have the Madonna, no one shall.
Right. And so then Swordsman steps in, he's like, get back, darling. And then he jumps, he's ready to attack Kang, but then Ramatut steps in and jumps on Kang, and then they kind of just they just disappear. They flash of energy and they're gone, right? But then, laying on the ground, Swordsman, he's all beat up, he's all burned, right?
Yeah, he took the bullet for the Mantis.
Oh, wait, no, sorry, they're still there. They're still fighting. Right? Yeah, they're still, all of a sudden, they're still there.
Well, Ramatut tackles him. Yeah. And but the stray shot hits Swordsman instead of Mantis, because he protected Mantis. So, yeah, then Ramatut's punching Kang. But then Kang, their hands hit some switch on the time machine, and they go flying off into the future somewhere.
And it says the struggle is fierce, savage. And then by accident, design, destiny, the time sphere purrs into pulsating life, and the Time Lords are gone with a split-second breeze. And then we see all the Avengers they're kind of sad because they know what's going to happen. The Mantis is with Swordsman. She's like, darling, you cannot die. You must fight back, overcome. Afraid my body's not as recuperative as yours, Mantis. This is it. So basically, we get a very sad death scene. And he's like,
look at Mantis. She's like, oh, she was chasing over a robot, all these weeks, tossed Swordsman aside, but now she realizes, Swordsman, you're the true love of my life.
It's kind of sad because he's like, but like Kang, I was doomed from the beginning. I'm a failure. I'm just one of those people who doesn't count. Darling! And then Iron Man's like, every Avenger counts, Swordsman, every one. And then Vision says, sleep well, Avenger. Rest in peace. And then it doesn't say the end. It says termination.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah, that's weird. Because it's just written like, it's not even in a narration box. It's just written beneath. Yeah. So there it is, the end of the big story. So now, do you know what happens from here, Michael, in terms of Mantis and Swordsman?
Not exactly.
Well, if you said that the Kotati reanimates his corpse, and then he has sweet, sweet love with Mantis to give birth to Sequoia, the Celestial Messiah, you won the pony.
Really?
You are correct. Yeah. They reanimated his corpse so she could have sex with it, and then she gave birth to Sequoia. And then she gave Sequoia to the Kree, and she went off into space with the Silver Surfer. Because she became like Kotati, she became part plant and part alien, so she got she became like invulnerable to like space travel. I don't know why. So she was surfing with the surfer.
Yeah, this was the 80s Silver Surfer run by Englehart and Rogers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah, it's funny how Englehart loved this Mantis lady.
Right.
Everywhere he went, he just took Mantis with him.
Yeah, I mean, she's fine, but I don't see why he would, spread out 30 years worth of stories with her, but okay.
Yeah, so now I'm thinking back to those Silver Surfer stories, but I think she still had kind of like the white skin, right? I don't think she was green, but she was Kotadio at that point. I don't know. Or maybe she became full-on Kotadio later on, because at some point she like disperses her essence across the universe.
Right.
So she like broke up her body, and there were like various mantises for a while, weren't there? Weren't there more than one mantis?
Ooh, I don't know.
They were little like pods that grew to be mantis.
I think so. I read those, but sold them. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very confusing. But yeah, so if you were sad that the lovers here got separated by death, don't worry. They reanimated his corpse, and she slept with it to give birth to Sequoia.
Yes.
So.
Oh boy.
Because like the Kotati, like she had to sleep with one of their high, not priests or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, he took control of the dead body of swordsman, like possessed it or whatever. I don't know. But then Sequoia was born, and he was supposedly the celestial messiah, the most important person in the universe. But I never heard of him. Did you ever hear of Sequoia?
I've never heard of him, that's for sure.
Yeah. Guess he kept a low profile, this Sequoia guy. But so there it is. What a story.
Yeah.
What a tale.
Well, I don't know. For some reason, I think I like this issue better than the first one.
Yeah, it's tough. Cockrum's art here is fine. It's solid.
I
think some good stuff, really some not so good stuff.
He's always been one of my favorites, but this is actually better than average. You don't think so? For Cockrum?
Yeah, I think it's better than average, but do you think it's better than the Sal in the first issue?
Well, I mean, I can't say anything bad against our pal Sal, but I actually do like this art better than the art in the other issue, yes. Yeah,
it's good. I mean, he gets extra points for those 2 pages there with the when Kang and Ramatut are fighting, and then
right.
Mantis, that big page.
See, yeah, the one thing I'll say is that I love Sal Buscema, but until the late 80s, he really seemed to just sort of be like he was drawing so much that everything tended to look exactly the same. Whereas it seems like Dave Cockrum was putting a lot more heart into each panel. That's what I think.
I suppose. I think Sal was more dynamic though in his panel designs and the action scenes and stuff, but because he's more like Kirby-ish,
True, yeah.
How he tackles that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good art here. Now, do you know who Kurt Busiek is, Michael?
Oh, I
guess he's a writer.
Of course. Famous, huge writer. You don't know who he is?
Yeah, I've heard of him, but I can't think of one thing he wrote.
He was kind of around in the 80s, but he didn't become big until he wrote Marvels with Alex Ross.
Yes, I never read that.
Yeah, and then I'll just tell you quick, and then he did Astro City, and now he's one of the biggest writers the last 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, so when I was reading up on this issue, one of the little trivia notes was Kurt Busiek says that Giant-Sized Avengers 2 is the best written Avengers story ever.
Really?
Yeah, that is absurd.
Yeah. Here's the thing, okay? You know about my history with Steve Englehart, right?
Remind the kids.
Well,
remind the kids.
Essentially, I read one, I read one issue comic by Steve Englehart in around 2005, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I have to buy every single comic he ever wrote, and I did. But I read some of them, but not a lot of them. And then I waited until last year to start reading them. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Don't get me wrong. If you're in the right mindset, they're good, but some of them are terrible. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. But it's kind of like you have to be in the right mindset. Like even when I was reading this issue, there's certain parts that I thought were really good. Like the part where Scarlet Witch and Mantis were arguing. I think
I
sometimes
thought that was terrible.
I think sometimes he's really good at dialogue because he's not phoning it in. He's trying to make it all seem original and natural. I mean, whether it is, I think
it's just horrible that they're arguing over. What do ladies argue? They argue over men. That's the only thing they can argue about.
Don't get me wrong. The dialogue still is very dated and forced, and what was the insult? Something knows. The one
Halloween knows.
Halloween knows. Like that is ridiculous, right? But I'm not saying it's great dialogue, but it seems like he's at least trying, so. Yeah,
the way he rates women is not, obviously it's part of the time, 1974. No one was really rating women that well in 1974. But it is kind of ridiculous how they're arguing over, they're arguing over the vision a ribbit. Well, this whole World War III thing's about to happen.
Right,
and right. You might want to put that aside. But yeah, I like the overall plot. The idea is interesting. Maybe that's what Busiek meant, like the idea of Kang coming back and his other self and all that. That's cool and all.
It's like we said, the plot, even just reading about this plot in Marvel Universe, I was like, oh my God. Like just the idea of finding out Ramatut is Kang and the time loop. So maybe that's what he means. You're right.
Yeah, that's really good. So maybe that's what but in terms of the actual words used to tell the story, not so good. Not so good. What are you going to do? Overall, I don't know. This issue specifically, I think it's another Westward, another 6 or 7.
I'll say 7. I'll give it a 7 because it's pretty solid.
So maybe the two combined, a 7,
6.5.
Yeah. But again, I love the cover for 129.
Me too.
That was really good. So use that for the thumbnail, Michael, for the episode.
Oh, now you're deciding what images I use for thumbnails. It's the new era.
That's a really good cover.
Okay.
But so I don't know what else about the Kang and the Avengers. Will you go read more Kang stories?
Well, I've always loved Kang, and I don't know how much we're going to talk about Loki, but I was not a big fan of the finale. Did you see it?
I love the finale of Loki.
Really?
I thought it was very well done. I know we talked about this briefly before. You said you didn't like the guy that played Kang. You thought he was overdoing it. And that's a fair complaint. He was, going over the top with it. But I thought it worked eventually. Like when he first started, I was really annoyed by him. I was like, oh, this is very annoying. But I think by the end it worked. But I really, really thought it was well done, the final episode.
But here's the thing. Why did he never say his name was Kang?
Because that guy really wasn't Kang. He's just a guy.
Oh, so he's Nathaniel Richards, or
like the variant of him is Kang the Conqueror.
Okay.
That guy technically, I guess, isn't Kang.
Okay, fair point.
But he did say people refer to me as a conqueror, and depending on not him, but other versions of him, he said they call it whatever. But you understand the variants.
I got you. The variants, yeah.
They at least had him wearing purple and green, right?
Yeah. And you know how they say, this changes Marvel forever. I'm sure that they're going to use, because, they're saying this is a great way to introduce, maybe the X-Men or the FF or whatever. But I was actually thinking maybe they'll use this as an opportunity to, for example, recast Black Panther. Right?
Yeah, I heard someone mention that. Yeah, because you can just explain it's a other variant of him or whatever.
Because remember, at the end of the episode, Loki goes back to the time thing, and Mobius doesn't even recognize him, right? So they could just...
Yeah, because he's in a different timeline, right. Because outside Michael, there's no more 3 timekeepers. There's just Kang.
Exactly.
There's just Kang.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, really, I mean, I don't know. It was pretty good, but I didn't love it.
That was really good. I think it was the best ending episode of any Marvel Disney series.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it had a good
WandaVision final episode was hacky as hell.
It was not great. Yeah, considering how great WandaVision started out, it kind of just petered out at the end.
Yeah, first 5 episodes were real strong, and then downhill.
Yep.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier, the same kind of thing. First 2 episodes, great, then downhill.
Yeah.
I agree. What's up next? What If? What If is up next, right? The animated What If.
I'm probably going to watch 1 episode to give it a chance, but then I might not continue. We'll see. Depending how good it is.
And then Hawkeye?
It might be Ms. Marvel. I don't know. And then somewhere in there is going to be Moon Knight, which I'm really excited about because I like the comic and I like Oscar Isaac.
She-Hulk as well, right?
Yep, She-Hulk's in there too, yep.
Holy hell.
Ending, eh?
What a time to be a comic book fan.
Right.
It is crazy when you think about it, Michael. Because when you said you reviewed the first Spider-Man on your Spider-Cast coming up, and the first Spider-Man movie. And when that movie came out, like, you know, we had the X-Men right before that, which was successful. Then we had that Spider-Man. But before that, the idea of a successful comic book movie from Marvel was unheard of.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, like, X-Men was a fairly big hit, but Spider-Man was like a phenomenon. And I think that's what really made it totally acceptable for superhero movies to be cool. I think that's what did it, you know? And that just ballooned from there.
And now we have nothing but superhero movies.
You're totally right, yeah.
It might be a little... They could take a break. Maybe, you know, sit one... Hey, what about the Eternals, Michael? I did not see the trailer, but our buddy Kevin Jank told me he saw the trailer, and it looks terrible.
You know, it's fine.
He said he thought it looked terrible.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look great, that's for sure, but who knows, right? We'll see.
Are you going to pick an Eternals issue for Flea Market Fantasy?
You never know. You never know.
Well, next week, what do you got?
Oh, funny you should ask. Because
well, it's not really funny. I ask at the end of every episode.
So, as everyone knows, Cousin Brandon was supposed to be on our 100th episode, but
Wait, Cousin Brandon's coming back?
Yes, he's coming back. Of course he is.
What?
And let's listen to this. I decided to let him pick. He could pick any comic in the world published between 1970 and 89, I guess. And
did he pick the X-Men?
He went way out on the limb, okay? He dug deep. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Detective Comics number 600!
No, he didn't.
I swear to God. Yes. Detective Comics 600. Woo!
What the fuck?
Batman's 50th anniversary.
Why would he do that?
Hey, no questions asked. I let him pick whatever he wanted to, and he picked Detective Comics.
What year is Detective Comics 600? Now, did you give him a list again and say pick what you want?
I said you pick whatever you want. And he picked comics that he liked as a kid. And one of them was... I said, okay, pick whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to pick. He picked Detective Comics.
What's going on in... Like, what year is this and what's going on in this?
1989. Now, the thing I should point out for you, our millions of listeners at home, if you do want to read along when we review this one, it is part 3 of a 3-part story. So technically, you could read 598, 599 before you read this one. But we're only going to review Detective 600.
And who's the writer-artist?
The writer is none other than Sam Hamm, who wrote the screenplay for Batman. And the artist
Sam Hamm?
is Dennis Cowan.
That sounds like a made-up name. Sam Hamm.
No, it's a real name. And the artist is Dennis Cowan.
Sounds like a Dr. Seuss character. Sam Hamm.
Anyway. So yeah, it's going to be a good one.
I got to talk to Brandon about this.
And it can't be changed. It's been recorded here on Skype. So it cannot be altered, and it is definitely his pick.
Good Lord.
Anyway, so yeah, you can listen to all of our episodes of Flea Market Fantasy on Stitcher, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts under Comic Book Syndicate. You can also follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and the Comic Book Syndicate website. Each week we pick a different Bronze Age pick. Sometimes I pick, sometimes Mike Dell picks, sometimes Cousin Brandon picks. But either way, it's always going to be good, right? So until next Tuesday, disperse!